250 feet by 350 feet is the proposed site. It is between the protective waterway and that captures the drainage and the maximum water level in the lake. It's a little postage stamp. It's an option. That's why we're here, is because it's a possible option. Go ahead.
Does all the chemicals and the water from drilling, especially from fracking, does that not go back into or have the potential to enter the water table?
They're required under the aqua rules. Under the aqua rules, they're required to drill a specific distance underneath the water table to make certain that they avoid it. They drill with. Now, Coastal, do you want to take this one on?
I'll try to explain on that. Anytime you start to drill a well, the first thing you have to do is protect the freshwater strata. So you talk to the state, and they give you the base of the treatable water. That is the longest distance that they consider that water can be treated, not drinkable water, but treatable water that you'd have to go through a purification system or some other chemical process to clean it up to drink. In this area, that depth is at 1,100 feet. So the very first thing you do when you drill the well, you have to set a protective casing at that depth to protect the freshwater strata. As far as the chemicals are concerned, anything that comes in the well comes out the well, goes into tanks, and then it's hauled off to a state permitted facility. It's not held or stored on location.
Okay, so you're asking me why he's not talking? It's because the Occupy people shut him out every time. So
Can we interrupt him?
Hello. Go ahead.
Can we put him on the microphone? His mic.
Yeah, and it was?
Other proposed sites that are on the table?
We don't have any. This is it.
Lake reservation.
This is it. I'm sorry? There were the people who figured it out. There were the people who figured out about the oil and gas under that area. They individually figured out that that was a potential drilling site and brought it to us. We did not seek it out.
Is it not the proximity to the lake?
The question is why that site.
The reason that site was selected is because, again, as Mr. Smith said, back in 1995, a half dozen wells were drilled on the north side of the lake that produced 500,000 barrels of oil and 9 BCF of gas, all under strict code, all under aqua rules. They were drilled, and they're still producing right now. So basically, we contend that pool of hydrocarbon on the north side of the lake extends underneath the lake and actually comes to the south side.
Are those fracking wells or not?
All the wells that were drilled, completed, and produced on the north side of the lake were fracture stimulated. I don't believe, to my knowledge, any of the water has been contaminated as a result of those. Now, one thing somebody needs to understand is that when the depth that we'll be drilling to is about 6,700 feet. That's if there is a stimulation with fracture stimulation. We don't know if there is, because not all formations you drill through are candidates for fracture stimulation, and they're completely different the way you design a vertical well straight down as opposed to a horizontal well. You use a lot more fluid. So we can't say that that's going to happen. But if we're at 6,700 foot, which is like 1.3 miles deep, that's happening down 50 foot at the bottom of the hole, and it's not happening up at the surface or at the base of the lake.
How do we protect from earthquake activity? Because that's a given.
I guess the question there is whether, where we are in proximity to faults, known faults, or where the earthquakes are occurring right now, and also how that is happening.
They're all according to the Oklahoma Geological Society. They're all happening. If you look at the map, all of the earthquake activity are happening around wells that are fractured.
I really don't know if I can answer that, but I can say that the wells were fracture stimulated on the north side, and there were no earthquakes at that time, or at least maybe they weren't detected at that time and nobody felt them. So to go ahead and generalize that because you fracture stimulate a well that's going to cause an earthquake, I don't think that's a fair assessment.
Tim, how do you consider this with the injection wells?
There will be no injection wells. This is a different kind of formation. We don't anticipate producing a lot of water like you see up in the north part of the state, the Mississippi Play and the Woodford, where once you produce that water back, you either have to dispose of it in a disposal well or you haul it off to a state permitted well. This is a different kind of reservoir. It's called a solution gas drive. We anticipate oil and gas.
But in the southeast part of Oklahoma City, around Jones area, the earthquakes caused by injection, whether that was disposable water that was injected or fracking water, I don't know. But compare your operation to that incident of significant earthquake damage.
Okay, so we made a comment about earthquake damage. Is that something you can add?
As far as the wells are concerned, I don't know if I can make a comment on
Okay, well, it has.
those.
It happened in Jones.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question about the water and the amount of people that receive water from Lake Hefner. Does your statistic of about 100,000, does that include businesses and interlocal city agreements?
100,000 people strictly from Lake Hefner.
Is that residential or is that business?
That's everybody. Wait,
Is that all
there's a part
interlocal?
of Oklahoma City we cannot serve except from Lake Hefner. That's 100,000 people.
Ma'am,
No, I'm sorry. I need to go on and let some other people ask questions. Yeah.
Who pays for damages if earthquakes do cause damage to our houses? Who pays for damages if there's more potholes in the roads around the drilling site and people's cars get ruined? Who pays for damages if the well does seep out and pollute Lake Hefner? Who pays for that?
The operator pays for any leaks, hazard spill prevention response plan. It's an emergency process. It's an important part of any decision to drill. In fact, we haven't done it for 20 years, means you guys haven't seen it, but the reality, yes, every well that operates in our system has a response plan associated with it, with emergency call numbers, and fortunately those calls are really, really rare. But it's a good question, and
If
again,
there is earthquake damage to our houses, who pays for it?
like insurance.
I think you have to figure out where the earthquake comes from, and I don't have an answer for that. I don't think you guys do. So, you.
I am a retired epidemiologist for the Department of Environmental Quality.
Hi, nice to meet you.
20 years that I've been working on all of the old sites, either that has been abandoned or that is still continuing through the record process. And I will tell you that the contamination that is present after 40, 50 years without really doing anything on it is so vast, it's so enormous. And it is good because those sites are actually way out in the boondocks. There are no receptors other than the environment, other than the wild species. But here, you have human beings. Yes. And there are three specific things that you did not address, and I am so concerned. The first one is the air contamination issue that would be generated whenever you would drill it. You have addressed the air, the water, you have addressed the soil contamination, but you have not addressed the air.
Yeah, I saw your
Because the air is actually going into the subdivisions and to the neighborhood. It might even go up to where we are living or where we're residing. That's another. And the main thing is the contaminants that are in this are highly carcinogenic. There is no threshold. Even if you would be there for 7 or 14 days, just one smell or swift of benzene in 20 or in 15 or 20 years, you would develop cancer. And that is based on research. The second thing is beautification is what you're going to do after you have done and you're going to beautify it. It is just skin dip. There would still be contamination in the water. There would still be contamination on the land. And you never had addressed it. You would just be fencing it. You would just be putting trees.
And security cameras.
And then the last thing is the safety aspects. you are proud to say that there are several or hundreds of wells that has been drilled, and we never know, and we never complain, and we're never there. Take note that during the time that this has been drilled on, there isn't any residences in that area. No one that would be able to know that they have to be present in this meeting and tell the whole community that this is wrong. You know, I would understand that you would be looking for some oil or some fracking or some other, but that's not the place.
Somebody else who has an answer question.
Is Pedestal willing to disclose? Is Pedestal willing to disclose the chemical composition of the fluid that they use? And if not, how can they guarantee that there's not going to be contamination in the water?
They have to tell us that is a part of the. They have to tell us that is a part of the final process. Yes, I don't know.
Everything should be disclosed. The exact composition, the percentage of all the chemicals used in the hydraulic fracturing.
To the extent that it's not proprietary, but we'll be able to get you next.
Basically, when you fracture stimulate a well, you're required to disclose those chemicals, which we do disclose through a program called Frac Focus, and you can get online and you can see every one of those chemicals.
100% disclosure.
All of the chemicals, 100% disclosure.
Okay, so somebody else who hasn't asked a question. You? No, the lady behind you.
Yes. First, I would like to say thank you for getting your tour. I live walking distance from the proposed fracturing site, and I've heard a lot of language being used as we don't think this will happen, or we don't have any research to back that. But there's a lot of research lacking. I mean, sure, maybe earthquakes come from fracking, maybe not, but we don't have. Shouldn't we do that research first before we create a site in the middle of the city?
We're starting the process.
Okay.
And the lady, I'm sorry, no, not you, the lady behind you. Yeah.
What we're all really concerned with is under the table, when we're all asleep, that a deal's going to be made, and we're going to be stuck with an enormous, horrible situation here. You say there's a process, this and that, and the other, but up to this date, that process, all of a sudden, boom, there's a meeting at the last meeting in a small building, and they've already proposed it to the Water Resources Board.
So the proposal came in 2011. We had a meeting.
And it was, people didn't want to.
I've lived here 8 years and I've never heard of that meeting.
I can't help you about that. We had a meeting between the neighborhood associations that are directly next to the site. It was not pursued at that time. They came back with some information in 2012. We've been looking at it. We have not done the science. We just looked at can it fit the basic requirements. That's why we're here, is we know it fits the basic requirements. We don't know that it fits all the requirements. And actually, we want to know what else you think, and I have some pretty good ideas about what that is. What else?
The Water Resources Board, who appoints the Water Resources Board?
Since it's the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust, and they are appointed by the mayor.
There's nothing on the website. We just looked. The trust is empty. There's nothing there.
Because they shouldn't be in charge.
As far as there being this clandestine done deal, I wrote that letter in 2011 and made that proposal, and it went away. And then I went ahead and contacted them again several months ago to see what the status of it was. They said, okay, well, if you really want to look at doing this, you're going to have to talk to the people, and they set up the neighborhood association meeting. In order for us to be able to do anything out there, Aquid and the city have to grant a surface lease and a lease agreement to lease their minerals. None of that has been done. So I don't have an agreement with them, they don't have an agreement with us.
The citizens, they want to be the ones to say yes or no, not a board or a group of people.
So I appreciate that you have many more questions. I also promised people that they could come in at 7 o'clock, and that would mean that I will have to ask if we can end. Please leave us your questions. You already know how to email us. And please let some other people come in from the cold and hear the presentation. And thank you very much for coming.
Please exit that way. Don't